and welcome to another episode of Tech Talk with Sierra Miles, where we talk about all things technology and keep you up to date on tech information that will best serve you. Sierra Miles is the premier IT service provider and technology partner here in Northern Nevada, specializing in healthcare, law, and small businesses. I'm here with Sierra Miles partners and founders, Brandon App and Tim Miles, and today we're talking about Cybersecurity Awareness Month.
Hello, thanks so much for joining us. And yes, this is such an interesting topic, something that always is obvious. We always come up with there's always topics like this that are constantly being covered, but this month is the month to highlight it.
Yeah, so October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And, you know, in this day and age where everything is digital, cybersecurity scams and all that are ramping up. So I think we want to talk a little bit about how you can best equip yourself to fight off these scams. So to begin, let's talk a little bit about election season. So we are in the thick of it. What are some of the scams that we are seeing out there?
Some of them are, with the election season, you're receiving a lot of text messages on your phone. And a lot of these candidates are after your donations, of course. If the funding helps them get the votes. But a lot of nefarious people will send text messages posing as these said candidates and want you to donate, but you're actually donating to cyber criminals in a short of it.
That, and it might not even be that the money's going where you want it to go, right? Like you just described, it could just be that they're collecting your credit card information. So, if you get a random text message, really keep an eye out on those links and really make sure that the recipient, or should I say the sender, is somebody that you trust. I mean, just like when you get an email or just like when you get anything else, just because it's election season and there's a candidate asking for your donation, use the proper methods to give that money to the candidate and make sure that it's going. Don't just click on a random link that you see.
Right. Just go directly to the candidate's website. They all have the link to click to donate. Just start there if you're interested in donating to a candidate, for sure.
The other thing we're seeing is like text messages, hey, you're not registered to vote. And click here to see your voter registration status. We're seeing that both with emails and with text messages. Know that there's a registrar of voters that you can go to that is, supported and funded by the state. There isn't a need to go to a third party website and things like that. So, really, just like with any situation, it's important that you go to the source that is reporting the information, whether it's a bank or whether it's a voter registration or donation, all of those things, go to the source.
And I think another part of this is, election season is so overwhelming. You're getting so many messages, so much advertisement. So I think that kind of plays into these bad actors' favor that, you're seeing so much of these things that you kind of will let certain things slip by. Like you said, with the text messages and phishing email campaigns as well. People are seeing that as well. So these bad links, any tips on phishing emails as opposed to text messages, kind of like the same advice there?
Yeah, same thing goes for, emails. If you get an email from somebody posing as a candidate, just click the link, see what it's about, but go directly to the candidate's website. Like I said before, that's going to be your best bet. Just be very vigilant, very careful. When you do receive these, make it a zero trust. At first bet, do not trust it, and then verify the information on your own. And, make sure you're going to the right source to give the money where you want it to be given to.
One thing that we do here at Sierra Miles for our managed service clients is that we actually implement what's called Safe Links with Microsoft. It's actually a service that's provided by Microsoft that allows sort of the link to be clicked before it's provided to the user or the email recipient. And so, if you're concerned about any links or phishing within your business, definitely reach out to us because we have some really great tools that we can utilize to kind of help prevent that and help mitigate those things.
Perfect. Yeah. Great advice there. Just stay hyper vigilant. If something doesn't seem right, just kind of do a little bit more digging on it. Moving on. So passwords. So passwords are something that we all use. So what are some password security tips that everyone should know?
Don't ever reuse passwords. That's the number one key. Got to make them complex. Your marriage anniversary or your dog's name, that just doesn't cut it anymore. Those are very easy to guess in a brute force attack. There's a lot of password generators that are out on the market today. We'll say, for an example, LastPass. That's a great repository to keep all your passwords in one place instead of writing them down or putting them into an Excel spreadsheet. This is going to be the best bet to secure your, bank accounts, emails, all of the things that you do shopping online and such. You don't want to ever get that compromised, and because when it does get compromised, it absorbs a lot of your time to get that fixed and rectified and try to get money back if money was involved in the situation.
And then another point that I want to add is that you are probably seeing the news and reporting, these large corporations that are supposed to be responsible for keeping your password secure, and then they get leaked on the dark web. Those passwords, if you're reusing them across different accounts and, let's say your Adobe account got compromised, now that password is out in the dark web and now it can be reused in other spots. The other thing that we want to sort of emphasize too is the use of multi-factor authentication. I mean, typically when you're implementing and typing in a password, a lot of websites require or enforce the requirement of two-factor or multi-factor authentication. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in the podcast, but those are something that needs to be implemented, and you really need to know for yourself and for your accounts whether or not multi-factor authentication is enabled for your key assets, whether it's banking, your email, things like that.
Yeah, and let's just, get right into two-factor authentication. How is this practice helpful for people, Brandon? And if you want to talk a little bit more about what that is, if for anyone who may not know.
So multi-factor authentication is the act of sending a second authentication to another device, whether it's a text message, it could be an email address. There's authentication apps like Duo or Google Authenticator that you have to type in that code to sort of authenticate that it's used. So, we're at the day and age where pretty much every account that has any sort of financial, health, or other important information, you'll find that there's multi-factor authentication. A lot of people experience it directly when they're logging into bank accounts or logging into the bank. And what we're finding is that there are folks out there who don't implement that. There are organizations that don't require multi-factor authentication, but it is something that is offered for their email, bank, or otherwise accounts. And so what we're finding is that there's folks out there and businesses that just don't have that enabled, or they don't have particular components of that enabled. And that's something that we help businesses with a lot. So if you're concerned about your multi-factor authentication, whether it's enabled for yourself or employees within your business, we've got some amazing tools to allow us to get insight on that, whether it be multi-factor authentication for Office 365, banking, other third-party accounts that have important information for you.
And Tim, have you seen firsthand how multi-factor authentication could really help in the case of a business that wants to protect?
Yeah, it's a great security measure for sure. Unfortunately, though, I've seen accounts get compromised even with two-factor authentication. And it's called a token hijacking, if you will, of your web browser and such. But also text messaging, that's probably the simplest two-factor authentication. But unfortunately, bad actors can mimic your phone number where they're receiving those text messages with the number to type in and such. But otherwise, you have to have two-factor authentication for all your emails, whether it be Google, Office 365, Yahoo, all your bank accounts, financials, anything important must have a two-factor authentication for sure.
And we have seen businesses, unfortunately, that we've worked for directly that have had, things happen, funds leaving the bank account and not having that two-factor authentication in place to sort of validate that money is supposed to go where it needs to go. We have seen businesses that have not implemented, good password hygiene when it comes to not sharing their passwords and sharing their passwords even just internally within their business, which is, a big no-no. So if you're, if you're looking to, kind of clean up your hygiene when it comes to password or multi-factor authentication, and you need some help with that, as a part of Sierra Miles Managed Services, we do offer an assessment for that. And then we do offer some tools to help manage your passwords to kind of get them out of that spreadsheet, to kind of get them into a, sort of a password vault that is secure, that is multi-factor implemented to protect those things. It is something that should be a part of the priority in your business, and also your personal life too. I've got multi-factor authentication on just the basic stuff like Facebook and just my personal Google account.
Right. No, it's useful for businesses, for your personal life, all of that. And Tim, you mentioned earlier about zero trust. So do you want to talk a little bit about zero trust principles and how they can support cybersecurity, what that is exactly?
Yeah, basically, you don't trust anything. That's the unfortunate thing. Anything that comes your way, right off the bat, do not trust it. And then just verify that information. The internet and our world today is not a safe place whatsoever for anybody. It includes your older family members that they're very easy targets in this particular matter. But the basics is don't trust anybody until it's verified. It's an unfortunate way of life that we have to, wrap our heads around. But that's what we need to do to move forward.
And kind of what zero trust also means for, from a technology standpoint, when it comes to multi-factor authentication and things like that, it actually kind of takes a step a little bit further. So, consider the situation where you're getting multi-factor authentication for email on a phone. Well, iPhones sometimes can share text messages and across different devices. If your multi-factor authentication code is going to a text message that has multiple devices on your Apple account, then there is a potential for that text message to be sent to another device and sort of circumvent the multi-factor component. So where the basic understanding of zero trust comes in, it's rooted in the principle of never trust anyone, never trust, always verify. And so even in a situation like what I just spoke about, every user, every device, every application must be authenticated and authorized. And this typically involves components of multi-factor authentication to ensure that only legitimate users can access the system, but also still verifying the person behind the screen. So even in the case of text messages or multi-factor authentication through email, it still will verify you. And where we're seeing that shift is transitions into biometric authentication. So you might see things like, hey, instead of doing two-factor authentication, maybe it's looking for a Face ID with an Apple, or maybe a fingerprint, a biometric on the computer itself. Those things are something that we're starting to see when it comes to zero trust, and ensuring that there is no breaches, because the mindset of zero trust is that breaches can happen at any time, and it shifts the focus from preventing breaches to minimizing the impact of any breach.
Perfect. And I think that's a great way to kind of finish off this podcast. Our advice here for Cybersecurity Month is just don't trust anything. Like, always verify, like they both said, verify. and just stay vigilant with your online activity and your passwords and all of that good stuff. So with that, I'd like to thank you for tuning in to Tech Talk with Sierra Miles. If you'd like to listen to more episodes, you can find us on your favorite podcast platform. Stay connected with us on social media for more tech updates. And if you're interested in partnering with us or getting more information about Sierra Miles as your managed ID provider, please contact us at info@sierramiles.com or give us a call at 775-420-4224. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one.